Tuesday, Uncut Tuesdays, digital economics. Trying to figure out how to make some of the digital money. Um, what am I thinking? So, based on some of the conversations that I'm having with people who are interested in figuring out how to take some of their knowledge and turn it into like digital products, I'm seeing that people are trying to determine what the digital product is supposed to be
Before.
before they ever get a chance to see their knowledge like on paper.
Just that hustle mentality.
It might be hustle mentality. It might be maybe not trusting suggestions, tips, advice, and process. But it's like people kind of jumping the gun and then jumping the gun, deciding that, oh, I'm about to make an ebook or I'm about to make a course. I think it's making it harder to get through building the list of skills.
Well, when you say it like that, it kind of feel like I didn't define it, any of it makes the process like kind of stagnant because like going into it, my goal was specific things for specific places or products.
Right.
Having fun with it, being free with it, I see a whole bunch of other stuff that could be done or that I'm already doing, like happening or evolving without even trying.
Got you. Can you say more?
Yeah, like last week I didn't have my journal, so I was writing on Procreate, and writing on Procreate, I didn't put down all the steps, and then now it's like I can see that every step like has its own world or thing that still needs to be broken down, and it's like I can them 2 pages just turn to 20 pages, and I can see it differently.
Right.
But I don't have no, it don't have no life or no goal or no place to be yet.
Right.
Or even when we transition the product book or the product materials on Canva, when I'm breaking them down and seeing them individually, it's like, oh, I got a lot of shit to shoot. I got a lot of shit to write. I got a lot of shit that is involved in this. So it's like a different lens now without trying to figure out what product, what anything, and breaking all of it down.
Yeah.
And does that kind of like speak to like the same thing, um, like doing the work and letting the work speak or do its own thing in comparison to like figuring it out before you even start?
Yeah, no, that speaks to it 100%. Because I feel like when I first started this process of trying to figure out what the information that I got to share looks like in a digital format to be a product, I went right to a course builder. And when I was in the course builder, it became very apparent that I hadn't thought through what my modules were or what my lessons were. And then I tried to go back to some old curriculum that I had written up to be like in front of a classroom. And I recognized that that curriculum I created to be in the classroom, I had only created it out of obligation for the job that I was working. So I never really wrote up what I'm actually doing in the classroom. I really was writing up what I just had something to turn in. And then, you know, for me to go through the process of taking all of my skills and taking all of the knowledge and kind of flushing that stuff out and then picking a skill. And actually, I've picked multiple skills to go through this, how to see your knowledge cheat sheet, all these different questions to ask myself to help me flush out each skill. I've been doing multiple skills simultaneously, which has been helping me get better at flushing out a skill.
Mm-hmm.
When I've sat down with my first like PDF that's gonna be downloadable, when I took that PDF and sat down with the course builder, all of the information that I need for the course builder is in my PDF. Like I'm not missing any information. You know?
Because even when I was in my course builder and I was trying to tell them how to do a stitch braid, it's like I couldn't find the words. And now that I have been focusing on just writing out everything, I got every fucking step. So now it's like I want to try to see if the video or the pictures match
Right.
how I'm articulating it. But it was kind of like a start over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like after flushing it all the way out, you get to plug in the information into any of these different digital formats versus make the information up
Yeah.
for creating the digital product. It might be some kind of urgency, that a sense of urgency that people see, but they want to skip steps. It's like, oh, I'm about to make a book. Oh, I'm about to make an ebook. Oh, I want it to be. It's like, no, you just really got to list the skills and knowledge out first. And then take yourself through a series of about 10 to 15 questions. And then you're going to be sitting there with all of what you need to plug into whatever digital product you decide to create. And me filling out the course builder, the course builder right now, I'm realizing that even my framework for my skill, it's only parts of it that I'm like really plugging into the course builder.
It's still like cheat sheet background information or tips and tricks on there too.
Yeah.
Additional to the modules or the things in there.
Yeah, it's not what I anticipated.
Right.
And I'm watching myself be able to get through it. And before, it was like I didn't know how to finish the whole course or what completed it or stop at what step. But I'm definitely seeing this sheet that we creating so far as the handout to give to somebody to catch them up to the conversation. You know?
Yeah.
Because that's been my goal, is how to take some information that I'm learning and turn it into something that I can hand off to somebody so they can catch up to the conversation versus to constantly have to repeat it. But I wanted to go through this sheet with y'all to see what y'all thought. I mean, I don't know if y'all might have seen it already or some of it.
I've seen some of it. But you want them to be like talking points, or you just want to tell us what you got?
Maybe like talking points.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And this kind of stemmed really well from the conversation that we had last week, like re-articulating it to Miss
Boyd.
Yep.
Yep. And even London.
Like having new students interested in the class. It's kind of where that list came from.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
So you want to talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of what I did in the actual course.
Did you put it on the website already? Or kinda?
Did I put it
in your course builder?
Yep, I put it in the course builder.
Okay.
Well, I created the PDF, the free downloadable PDF. So I created that and turned that into a free downloadable PDF. And then I used the free downloadable PDF to start to build out the course. And the course really being dedicated to just actually being able to see your knowledge. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's not
productizing your knowledge until you can see it.
Yeah, you can't productize the knowledge until you can see it. And that was the biggest thing that I noticed and learned, just even for myself. So it felt like the first thing you needed to be able to do was identify your skills. And I feel like when we think of skills, we think of something physical that we can do with our hands more than anything. Like that's usually the first thing that comes into my mind. What skills do I have? What do I know how to do with my hands? And I start writing down or thinking through some non-traditional questions that I was asking myself that was helping me see more skills than just the skills that I can do with my hands. So it was like, what do you know that you can teach? Probably because I found myself on the phone or in conversations where I was explaining something to somebody, and it wasn't always something physical that they can do with their hands. You know, it's like thought process and mindset and discipline and habits. You know, these non-physical things.
Mm-hmm.
What do people need your help with? So it was me looking at what are people calling me and asking me. Because if you think about it, if you really don't know what your skills are and you don't really know what knowledge you have, it's very beneficial to start to evaluate what people are asking and what they're extracting. You know? What up, what up? Odds and evens, he be on it. They be on it. Then it was what can you explain off the top of your dome? So just off the top of your head, what's the things that you just so ingrained in it and you just know it, where you can explain all the way through all of the steps of the process? I don't have it on the list, but another thing was what like books have you bought to learn something? What how-tos have you learned? What areas have you invested money into learning something? So it's like what you done went to school for?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what you done had to take a training for. So
Dang, like a whole different world of stuff that you know that's all in here
right,
that's underestimated.
right. And I don't know that I write this on here, but is what's a problem that you were trying to solve? You know, any problem. Because somewhere in you solving it, you've developed skills necessary to solve that problem, whatever that problem was. And I feel like when you start to go in a direction of what problem were you solving, you pull yourself out of non-traditional skills and non-traditional knowledge.
Right. And then it's like every time we have this conversation, I reevaluate. Like if it's more skills that I need to be writing or thinking about
Right,
based on the new questions. Because those are good questions.
right. And it's been beneficial for me to try to go through this step process of flushing out skills and knowledge with more than one skill simultaneously. Because let's just call them a traditional skill, right? I know how to do this with my hands. So let's just say being able to paint houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
That comes with a simpler set of steps of being able to solve the problem. You know, it's a certain amount of tools that you got to get. It's some certain techniques that you got to learn. And then over time, you start to develop the knowledge of efficiency and, you know, being able to be good at what you're actually doing based on practice. But then when you go into, you know, what I'm gonna call a non-traditional skill, which is the skill of knowing yourself, it's a little more complicated to break down the steps and the tools and the practice, right? But I would argue that the traditional skill, the format for flushing out a traditional skill, helps you know what to look for the non-traditional skill. I feel like the number one thing people talk to me about is about how to be able to be yourself. So self-actualization to whatever extent. And I'm watching myself start to get better at being able to flush out what the tools are for self-actualization, what the practice is for self-actualization, and how do you improve on self-actualization. But it's taking me time, you know what I'm saying? In order to really flush that skill all the way out. But if I'm not trying to think about the product, if I'm not trying to think about the skill, and I'm just going through the ritual, habit, or practice of answering these questions in relationship to any one given skill, it's getting easier. You know? So, after you can ask yourself what advice you give people, what problems have you solved or can you solve, then it's like create a list of skills / knowledge. Right? So once you got that list, and me, I use notes a lot in my phone. People probably use notebooks, journals, whatever it is. I use notes and I organize my notes a lot in the iPhone. What I start doing is once I've made this long list of knowledge and skills, when they pop up continuously in my life, I go back and I make that skill bold. So now I'm like, it's almost like I'm highlighting the skill that keeps coming up in real life. So however you highlighting it. So I probably got a list of 25 things, but I probably got 5 or 6 things that I've made bold. Right? And then some of them are easier for me to flush out. So I'll flush those out. The ones that are harder, I'm watching myself build them over time. So choosing one skill, right? So once you chose one skill, you got a new set of questions. And that new set of questions is, what steps did you take to learn that skill? Or what steps did you take to accumulate or develop the knowledge around that? Or whatever knowledge, whatever it is that you know. And those steps are whatever the steps were. You bought a book, you bought a video, you just bought the equipment, you bought the tools, you start experimenting, you know what I'm saying? You paid attention to somebody else who was doing it, whatever the steps were that you took. Because arguably the steps that you took would be the steps that you would suggest. Or the steps that you took would turn into your understanding of a quicker way or faster or more efficient way for somebody else to do it. So the stuff that you wouldn't suggest, you eliminate that from your list of steps. Or you would, or you could speak to, oh, I went left when I really should have went right, but I learned a whole lot when I went left. Then what were the goals to learning the skill? So you want to know this, you want this information, you want some knowledge, you want to learn this skill. Why? Right? Why did you want to know it? Why did you want to learn it? What were you applying the knowledge or what were you applying the skill to? Because being able to identify that helps you identify who you're talking to. Arguably you're always talking to the younger version of yourself. But in some instances, you're talking to people who also are trying to develop or who have similar goals. Right? That's who could use this information. That's who could use this knowledge. In turn, that's who could use whatever product you kind of craft. That person is who could use your assistance or your guidance towards whatever it is they're trying to figure out. What were the challenges? The challenges that you face are arguably the challenges that someone else is facing or will face. The challenges that you face can let somebody else know that it's normal. These challenges are normal. You know, this is a part of the process that you go through in learning whatever this skill or knowledge is for you to apply it to whatever goal you're trying to achieve. What were your solutions? So, you know, we from the school of there's no one right answer. You know, being an artist, being creative is an infinite amount of solutions. So, what were the solutions that helped you with the challenges? Because those solutions, it's like, yo, it's just your insight. This is what someone who doesn't know the skill or have the knowledge that you've accumulated, these are the things that they don't even know to think about. And then I put, what are your quick tips? You know, what is your, if you could do it this way, it's gonna take you this long. If you do it this way, you're gonna be and decrease your time by however much. You'll get there quicker. You know, I'm always saying you can listen or you can learn. For people who don't wanna listen, you know, they wind up having to learn it as long as they can stick with it. So you're gonna get there regardless. My thought is you can get there quicker if you just listen. You know, if this was any other process or regular process with a coach and players and with teammates and all that, you listen to what the coach is saying and just do the steps. You will learn all of the things that are necessary to learn. You don't want to listen to the coach. You do it in your own way. You still wind up learning all of the necessary things to learn as long as you don't quit. Learn the easy way or the hard way. And then on that framework, there's another element that I started digging into that somebody highlighted. I think it was like Russell Brunson. But it's like, what's the desired result, right? The desired result is very much similar to what were your goals. But for me, once I started to structure my framework for my goal, for my skill or for my knowledge, I was asking myself, what was my desired result? Like, what do I want to ultimately achieve? Because what do I want to achieve, or what you wanted to achieve, to me gives a little more insight than what the goal is. You know, a goal to me seems kind of finite. It kind of seems like one destination. But what is the desired result? It's like, what did I want the final outcome to be? You know, like what kind of attribute was I trying to add to myself? What ability was I trying to develop? So I like the, what is my desired result, right? And then attached to what is my desired result, it also helps me think through what do people want. You know, I wasn't really thinking what someone wants when I was looking at it from the perspective of a goal. Like, what do you want to achieve versus what's the desired result? What do you want the final outcome to be? You know? Bless you.
Thank you.
And then I started looking at this list that we're creating in this section, the creating a framework. I started looking at this list, the response to this list of questions. What is the steps? What were the goals? What were the challenges? What were the solutions? I adopted what is I start seeing these as the steps that somebody could repeat. So like, what is the repeatable steps? For me to see it as repeatable steps, it helped me get better at writing down what my steps were. Like, what's the thing that I did that I could suggest to somebody else that they could do? That helped me with clarity. So after 6 or 7 skills or 6 or 7 forms of knowledge, right? What I realized is that the framework that I created easily became my talking points when I'm talking about this skill or this knowledge. like literally. So I could talk about a subject all the time, but had no organization in really what I was saying.
Mm-hmm. This helps you pinpoint.
Yeah, it's like I'm saying it because it's coming out of me from a place where it's coming out pretty organized, but I never really knew what I was saying. I never really knew what I was talking about. For me to flush out this framework and identifying a skill, that framework instantly I recognize, oh, these are my talking points. Like, so if I took a video that I recorded and put that video into Cast Magic, which will give you a full transcription, Cast Magic will break down that video into talking points
Right.
and the subjects of what you're speaking from.
And ask you questions and stuff and all types of stuff.
Right. And then in the framework that I wrote down started matching the transcription of the AI software.
Which makes you know what.
It made me know that what I talked about for an hour is all of the same points that I wrote down once I flushed out my framework.
Gotcha.
And I realized that the framework was arguably more valuable than all of the details of what I talked about in the video. Because the framework or the talking points, I could keep having this conversation over and over and over again with the talking points. I could practice having the conversation by having the talking points. So framework became talking points. And then from going to a couple different workshops, I realized that a lot of times you got handouts.
Mm-hmm.
And the handouts that people are giving start looking like looking like talking points or looking like a framework. I'm like, oh, okay. So you give away the surface level of what you're talking about, right? So that's the free 1-page handout of the talking points. If someone is trying to develop a skill, somebody trying to accumulate knowledge, and they don't know what they don't know, the talking points that you've developed around the skill or the knowledge easily becomes an introduction to someone trying to learn that skill. As these are the things that I speak about because these are the things that I had to learn. Right. So if you don't even know this subject or you just kind of familiar with it, here go a list of things that if you just took a dive on your own into all these points, you would start on the journey of learning this information. You know, because a lot of times when we're trying to do something, we don't know what we don't know. So now I'm loving talking. I'm looking at the talking points like, oh, this is amazing. So now that I'm looking at them and seeing my framework as talking points, as I'm reading books, I'm seeing the talking points as the chapters of a book. You know? So now you got each chapter flushed out. And if you wrote to each chapter or wrote to each talking point, now you got a book. Right? But then the chapters, I'm looking at the chapters saying, okay, well, the chapters is easily the actionable steps for a course. Like you could walk somebody through each one of those chapters. But then if you recorded yourself talking through all of those steps, now it's like you got a video course. So I realized that it's looking like the framework, the flushing out of the steps is the source of your information. Because easily when you look at developing the product and then you are identifying like social media, so let's just say you identifying marketing, all of your social media can be created and ignited through the framework. Like the conversation that you're having through your framework is the same conversation that you could be having through your social media. Before you ever trying to figure out the business side of leads and retention and all of that other stuff, It's like really breaking out this framework and just being able to see the knowledge that you've accumulated is what I'm seeing as the step that is vital when you thinking, how do you make money beyond the skills that you have, that you got to punch the clock in order to make the money? Even if you can increase the amount of money that you're making through the service that you provide, you can't really scale money by having to exchange your time for it. There's only so much money you can make in an hour or a day or a year and scale it. You always got to exchange your time for money. It's hard to grow money. Like it just is. But we like a computer, so by the time you can accumulate all this knowledge within a year of working somewhere, that information, you can create something that when you sell it, you still have it to sell it again. Like this is what people doing to make money while they sleep. You know, this is a whole nother level of entrepreneurship. This is being able to operate a business and run a business versus being self-employed, where you just really working for working for the business.
Right.
This is something that can be operated.
The business work for you.
Right.
Susie, what you thinking?
I'm just attaching my stuff to what he's saying in my head.
Gotcha. So I listened to some guys. It was a podcaster. He said if you tired of explaining the same thing over and over again, you got to turn it into this stuff that you don't got to keep explaining it. And this is an example of it. You know.
Is Rico on? I was gonna say, like, I'm gotta do with Rico.
Nope, I don't think Rico.
You said you gotta work.
Like, explaining the same thing to Rico about this poem, it's like I need to give him something so he can follow what I'm trying to teach him and tell him about.
As a good cheat sheet handout, PDF.
Can you identify what he's struggling with? Like, you ever been there?
Some of it, I mean, but the point where he's saying he's just trying to get it done,
That's a
I
problem.
don't identify with that. Like it's like it's an assignment to him that he's trying to finish versus approaching it as this is a poem I want to write because I have something to say about this particular subject.
Right.
Like he's looking at it as I'm trying to get it right and I'm trying to get it done. I think that's why he's struggling so much. And he's not saying what he wants to say and how he naturally says it. He keeps trying to write a poem. And that part I can identify with.
Got you. So if you had, so could you see that as a skill that you have?
Mm-hmm. The teaching someone how to write a poem? Or
Well, more specific than writing a poem.
Mastering being able to say what you want to say in the poem.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Mm-hmm. That was what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Got you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Throwing all
It's
the
some
things
steps,
you've
it's some
learned.
things you can do. I mean, it's kind of like what we did with Sylvia. You know, do a whole flush of a brain dump, talk it through, talk it out, talk out loud, get a partner, get a second reader, read some other work, you know, walk away, turn it off, come back to it, you know, keep at it, you know. So, yes. So I think
Gotcha.
I need to maybe give that to Rico, like a quick tip sheet real quick, or text him, you know, some things that he can quickly look at that can help him if he's stuck or struggling or kind of clueless as what to do.
Right.
Because each draft is looking exactly the same.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's just different words, but it's still the same. He's not saying anything.
Mm.
He's not saying what he's telling us.
Right. You said it's coming back as the same thing. So
And
what?
then I tried to write like an example for him yesterday, but it wasn't the right time because he was saying he always said he understand or he got it, but I don't. What I showed him yesterday, I'm like, you see where I'm trying to go with that, or do you see clear, concise, to the point, spice of splash of creativity? He was just saying, yeah, but we needed a whole separate session.
Got you.
But I think with what you gave him, that it's gonna come back different. Like starting him off, like it's like when you push him on the bike, then he start rolling. Like it feel like
Oh,
it feel
gotcha.
like this one's gonna be a little bit different because she gave him like 3 or 4 lines, where it was like, oh, okay, I can go off of that.
Mm.
Like on some, like when you get Nation on that song, he had words, he had to like finesse it.
Got you. I
It's
mean,
not gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be as bad as it's bad. Because what did you give him? I couldn't read it because you told me to give it to him.
Well, I just titled it Confession.
Okay.
And I said, under supervision, I obey. I am as responsible as water. I dress for the weather. I show up on time. I light up the city. Under supervision, I am under control. I follow directions. I accept orders. I do as I am told. Under supervision, and then I told him, continue that list of all the things you do when you're under supervision, how you are, under control, you do what you're supposed to do. And then, the turn of the poem would be when you are not under supervision and you have this freedom, you are out of control, you are irresponsible, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But that was raw. That's why I feel like he might come back a little bit.
But is he about to try to write the poem, or is he just writing the list? See, I think he need to stop trying to write the poem.
Right. I mean, I keep saying the word list to him. Like, list it out.
But based on what you gave him, I wonder if he's going to go back to that step before he hit the, what's the name, or if he's going to continue. Because if he continues, it's still going to be...
Right, because without the list...
You still don't know what he do when he obey.
Well, without the list, he can't plug it in.
Right, because this is a list. Under supervision, I obey. And then I hit him with a simile. I am as responsible as water.
Well, but that's a poem.
I dress for the weather.
That's not a list.
I know,
Oh.
but you know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean,
Are you saying like him having that framework, he should be able to list out the things?
yes.
And then you saying because it's a poem already, the list is going to still be hard because he has not
Made
identified
the list.
or made a
Yes.
list.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just based on me watching what y'all two did.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the same thing we did when we went to Pittsburgh. You gave me what I needed to have listed, have, and then I would be sitting there like, can we do this one next? And he was like, I don't think that will fit. Or
Right,
let's swap
right.
that out. But
Right, y'all
this,
was working from the list.
hey, if you're having trouble, make the list and then give me a call.
Yeah, I think he need help.
Being able to flush or...
Yep.
Because even when he talking and then he go write the poem, he ain't did no flush for real because he ain't seen what he had to
Yeah,
say.
like I'm wondering if he actually making a list just because where the list at? Or when we was on the bike, I said to him the reason why I suggested you record the conversation
You record every conversation, but keep going.
is to go back and read what you said.
Right.
He was like, right, I ain't even going back and reading it. I ain't listening to the audio and I ain't reading it. I'm like, right, which means you don't see or hear what you're saying.
No.
We hear you saying something different than what you're writing. But you don't even know what you're saying.
I've been looking for this list.
Right. Right.
But right, so
So if you had to give 3 to 5 steps, what would they be?
right.
For Rico?
No, for me, for anybody, for life. What I gotta do first?
You can say for Rico.
Well, for Rico, I mean, the first thing he needs to do is he needs to discuss with someone else or privately what is it that you have to say. You need to answer that question. Like, what is it that you're, it's like, what is it that this poem is after? Like, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to talk about how I don't understand freedom. You need to write that first.
Right. Well, you need to have a discussion about that first.
Yeah, you need to, you need to write that down. You need to say it to somebody. Somewhere, somehow, you need to get out what it is that this poem is trying to do. What is it about? What's the point of it? What's the goal of it? Where do you, what's the subject?
Right. But if I needed help,
Identify your subject.
if you were telling me what I should do, what would you be telling me I should do? Should I go discuss it? Should I try to write it? How? How did you do it?
I mean, it's multiple ways that I do it. Sometimes I talk it out with somebody, but sometimes I talk it out to my journal.
I understand.
So I guess it's, which one are you?
When you struggling,
When I'm struggling, I talk to somebody.
so is that what you would,
So first go to your journal and write it out. Write out.
if you're struggling.
Yes. No.
So this PDF and cheat sheet is
Exactly.
if you are
Struggling.
to say
Oh,
what
if you
needs
are
to be
struggling.
said.
So if you are struggling, go talk to someone.
That's send them straight and put them arms up under them.
So
Okay,
yes, if you're struggling, if you're at the point of struggling with the poem, you need to go find a community, or a person to talk to.
Okay. Discussion.
What do you need to bring to them?
That question, right?
Mm-hmm. And then in that discussion, you need to record it or be taking notes.
He didn't do good with that.
Yeah, he's not listening.
Gotcha.
Because this is what keeps being said to him. So he didn't talk to Allie 3 times and me 1.5 times.
1.5 times.
Right, because even when I was talking to him that one time, I said, did you actually do that, or are you just saying, I told him to draw that line down the middle of the page.
Mm-hmm.
You was on the phone and you said draw that line down the middle of the page.
Yes.
Yes.
And he said okay, and then he what?
Well, he said he did actually.
He's like, I got a notebook right here.
So, yeah, record or take notes on what's being said.
This is weird.
Right. Then what?
And then,
When do the lists come in? After the conversations?
I think so.
it's after you tell this person, okay, I'm trying to write this poem, I'm struggling, da 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 da. It's like, okay, now list out the
Trying to think of a word to describe
yeah,
it.
it's like okay, it's like before you list out, it's like you need to think about imagery. And then when you think about imagery, you need to list out everything that applies to that imagery. And when we say imagery, we're talking about the five senses. So this list that you're gonna list, you need to think about the things that you can taste, the things that you can hear, the things that you can feel, the things that you can see. And I lost track of the fifth one.
I
But
spelled that wrong.
you know, the five senses.
List out the five senses.
You only on 3 though. You discuss, then you record, and then you list.
Right?
Mm-hmm. So you list out the five senses. But why did you say you're only on 3?
Cause you said the fifth one. Oh, but
Oh,
the fifth
she's on.
sense.
Yeah, she's on
Oh,
sense.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. List out the five senses. And then
Go back to your community. This like find your form.
no, it's like
Well, you start to build the lines from the sense, right? You start to build your lines from your list.
Right, but you gotta know what you want your lines to look like too. When do you do that part? Like knowing that we wanted my freedom poem to be like the Juanita poem, or knowing that we wanted that one poem to be a list poem.
right, and that's the thing is because it's kind of like then you need to decide your form. Like, are you writing a list poem? Do you want to write a sonnet? Are you trying to write free verse? Do you want it to be a prose poem?
So then you decide.
Once you decide on your form, when you're struggling, in my opinion, you need to go find a poem to look at so you can see
Your reference or your
some inspiration or a reference, so find a poem to reference.
inspiration.
And then you go back to your writing device, whether it's however you write, your journal, your phone,
Mhm.
and you attempt to write the poem.
Right, but when you say attempt to, what am I doing? I'm using my list to plug into the other part of my references form.
Yes. You gotta use the list to plug into the form.
That's what is that, 5?
Mm-hmm.
So you discuss when you're struggling, you go discuss it with somebody else. Record the conversation or take notes. Then list out the 5 senses
And
that
decide.
relate to your subject. And then decide on your form. And find a reference.
I call that something else. Yep.
And then plug your list into the form that you're trying to write or achieve.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Rico is getting stuck on, well, one, he's not recording or taking notes. He's just listening, nodding, and saying, I got you, I got you, I got you.
Right. Yep, 100%.
So it's like another cheat sheet is what to do when that person ain't listening.
Well, we all need that. What to do when the person you trying to help ain't listening? Quit.
Quit trying to help him.
Mm-hmm. Because you can't help nobody that won't help themselves. You can't help nobody that don't want to listen.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that was amazing how if we looking at seeing knowledge that you have, insight that you have, and just instantly turning that into a 5-point framework that could be plugged into all kinds of digital systems. Because this is more specific than like teaching somebody how to write or even teaching them how to write a poem. This is something that we already know that a lot of people are struggling with. Because they struggling with saying something in what they writing. You know?
Yeah.
Which is in the world of saying something in your work that you're making.
Right. That's why when he was talking to us and he finally got to the heart of what he's struggling with, he was like, dang.
Right. Damn. But I think this is a heck of an exercise. Separate from him, I mean, he fucked up. But
we can mention this later.
but this right here is what we doing. You know what I'm saying?
With all of it.
Yeah, like it's this part right here. Is don't nobody want to have to keep explaining to you the same thing, but in explaining it 3 or 4 times, you done got real good at what your key points are that you trying to get them to do. Which means these 5 key points will help somebody else. You know, and I think this goes to the question that people ask you is, what do people need your help with, or what are people asking you? What your work is, how are you able to be so honest?
Yeah.
You know?
You text Rico?
Mm-hmm.
He text you back?
Mm-hmm. He saluted me and said, okay.
No, he saluted me.
It's okay as far as what?
Oh, I told him to make a list. And then let's talk again on Thursday.
See, so he's not making a list.
He going straight in.
He's trying to write the poem.
And we keep saying, stop trying to write the poem. Make a list.
Yep. Yep.
This is insane. All right, well, what y'all think? That was good?
It's been an hour?
53 minutes.
Yeah, that was good.
Any thoughts of any of this that would make it easier for somebody to understand or comprehend, or what's missing? Anything missing?
Are those actually in order?
The questions?
Yeah. Like all of it. Is it all in order?
It's in order in terms of sections.
And then are the bullets in order?
The bullets may not be in order on the paper, but when I'm trying to figure out plugging them into the course builder, I noticed that I've been rearranging some of them. Because in the course builder, what I'm seeing is overview. Each section breaks out the overview, problem, solution.
In a couple sentences, or in that section?
In that section.
So
Like
when you
each
open
section.
up, what do you know that you need? What do you know that you can teach? That section has its own overview, problem, and solution?
Well, let me say it like this. Each module,
That's the big one? Okay.
yeah, each module breaks out and asks for overview, problem, solution.
Got you.
Each module, you can add individual lessons. I didn't know if I should turn each one of these into a lesson,
Or if that's the whole lesson in the...
or if that's just the whole lesson.
Got you.
You know? Same thing with the framework. like I don't know that each one of these need to be turned into a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it just seemed like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lessons when really it's just a series of questions. I don't know.
Right. Ask yourself these questions.
You know, like to me, these first 2 sections really just turns into you creating a very thought through list.
Yeah.
Like that's the assignment. This assignment is to help you develop the list.
Right.
You know, so I think I ought to group these questions together, questions to ask yourself and answer each one. But I was thinking that I would easily put a video attached to the 2, actually maybe 3 modules.
Or is it really 2? Because that's before you productize it.
Well,
Or
I put this as a module just to kind of explain what we were talking through, like to really be able to walk people through how the framework translates into these other things.
got you.
Even though it's nothing for you to do here other than become aware that these transition into these.
And then it on the module, is it still called Seeing Knowledge Cheat Sheet?
Oh, and the whole course itself?
Yeah.
I think I called it Seeing Knowledge Cheat Sheet, but then in the actual module, in the actual course builder itself, I put Productize Your Knowledge. Like I
Okay, 'cause
called
I
it,
feel like them two different things.
what's that?
Seeing your knowledge and productizing your knowledge.
Right. And this feels more like productizing the knowledge.
Once you add the 3rd step, yes. And then once you don't add the 3rd step, it seems like the
It's just,
seeing your knowledge.
I got you.
How to see it.
I got you. So
Identify it and then create your framework.
that makes sense. So all 3 is productized knowledge.
Yeah, because at the point where you gotta have the conversations, those turn to talking points, those come to notes and drafts and things of that nature. It becomes items and objects.
Yep. So I did change the name of that. I called it Productized Knowledge once I was just processing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's like you should do that again after you put it in the course builder.
Put,
Based on the order.
okay, like create a new
Step
breakdown
by step.
after what?
After you put it in the course builder, because I know there's taking off words, there's helping
Oh,
with your
I got you. Use the course builder to create the 1-page
cheat sheet.
cheat sheet
And the
and make the 1-page cheat sheet match the course builder. Since the course builder is making me
frame
get
it
better
inside.
at frame. I got you.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So happy holidays, everybody.
Bye, Grandpa.
Right. Look, odds and evens called me Captain Creative Nation. What's up, D Black, aka Captain Creative Nation? That's funny. All right, we'll be back next week.